Here's an embarrassing driving situation, the kind of thing that can haunt you for several hundred miles. One of those incidents you can't just shake off. Like the time you almost got killed by the big tractor trailer and had to pull off the road for about 20 minutes and listen to your heart slamming up against your rib cage. Bam, 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 bam. Well, this next thing is just like that, but this is one you do all by yourself. Do you ever pull up to a red light and you go a little bit too far into the intersection, just a few extra feet? So you put the car in reverse and you back up just a little bit, and then you forget the car is in reverse. So you sit there innocently, waiting for the light to change, looking around, eager to get moving again. Don't want to keep the proctologist waiting. At this point, folks, you are truly an accident waiting to happen. An insurance claim in progress. So you sit some more, and you sit some more, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you stare at the red light, and you look over at the woman on the right adjusting her tits, and you look at the guy on the left picking his nose, and then finally, the light changes and off you go. Crash, crumple, tinkle, crunch, directly backward into the grill of what was formerly a cute little red Yugo. Holy shit, how'd I get back here? This is where I was a couple of minutes ago. Apparently you have to pay attention even at the red lights. I thought surely they were for resting. You know, drive a little, rest a little, drive a little, rest a little. Seemed that way to me. Guess not. Here's a little red light story that somebody told me a long time ago. This guy's driving along and he's got someone sitting right next to him in the passenger seat, and he goes straight through a red light. Zoom! Passenger says, "What are you doing?" Driver says, "Never mind, my brother drives like this." They go a little farther, they come to another red light. Zoom! Guy goes right through it. "What are you doing?" "Will you stop? I told you my brother drives like this." Keeps on going, and now he comes to a green light and he slams on the brakes. "What are you doing?" "Well, you never know. My brother might be coming the other way." Now, a couple of things to remember when you're out in traffic. First of all, never get behind anybody weird. You ever get behind a guy whose turn signal has been on for about 80 miles, and you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe he's just a really cautious man. I'm not going to pass him now. He may turn at any moment. And later you discover he was driving around the world to the left. Another pain in the ass you don't want to get behind is anyone who's driving real slow. Boy, that's good for your arteries, isn't it? Someone who's really, really slow. There are two classes of driver in this category. The first is any 4-foot woman in a Cadillac whose head you cannot see. This is certain death. At first you think, well, maybe it's a remote-controlled experimental robot car. No, I can see tiny knuckles on the wheel and a small patch of blue hair. At this point, folks, I take no chances. I pull over immediately and take public transportation. I'm not about to fuck with a ghost car. Let someone else flag down the Flying Dutchman. It's not my job. Another driver you don't want to get behind is any man over 70 wearing a flannel cap with ear laps in August. Keep your distance, because, folks, you know how pissed you can get. Even though you think you're a mighty cool customer, you do get mighty pissed out there. Don't you occasionally wish that instead of having headlights, you had a couple of 50 caliber machine guns on the front of your car, so you could send several hundred rounds of burning lead into that slow-moving gas guzzler up ahead, just incinerate the motherfucker and get his ass off the road permanently? Well, don't you wish you were driving a rental car so you could bash the asshole in the rear end, pay the deductible, and be done with the whole goddamn thing? Bam! 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 Don't mind me, folks. I'm just trying to ease him up into second gear. Bam! God, it would do my heart good. Or if the offender is directly behind you, wouldn't it be nice to have an electronic message board that would rise up out of the trunk of your car and let you type in any message you like? Attention, asshole. You drive like old people fuck. Slow and sloppy. Speaking of behind you, don't you just love it when there's one of those guys on your tail whose brights are on? Isn't that a treat? Some shit stain who just had his headlights aimed and wants you to see what a wonderful job his mechanic did. You know how you handle a guy like that? Slam on your brakes and let him plow right into you. Might cost you a little money, but it sure puts them fucking lights out in a hurry. Let him find his way home in the dark. Does this ever happen to you? You're driving through heavy downtown traffic, block to block, street to street, busy area, people hurrying home at 5 o'clock. Maybe it's winter and it's already dark, raining a little bit. You got the window open and you can hear the rain and the traffic noise, people honking at each other, got the radio on, got the windshield wipers going. Everything's happening at once. Radio, rain, wipers, horns, traffic, lots of noise. And you're just trying to get across town to run an errand. And then, after all kinds of hassles, you get over there and you park the car, turn off the key, go inside and take care of business. And then when you come back out to the car and you turn on the key, the goddamn radio is this loud! And you sit there stunned, thinking to yourself, could I possibly have been listening to that? Here's one of those things you have to do every time you drive, especially if you're in a hurry. It happens as you approach a red light and find several lanes of cars ahead of you. As you roll up to the pack, you have to decide which lane to get into. You have to guess which car looks like a good bet to take off quickly so you can move out fast when the light turns green. With a half a block to go, you have to decide who's the really fast asshole in this group up ahead. Forget the Volvo. She's listening to public radio and drives the way she lives, with fear and caution. You'll also want to avoid that Toyota with the fish symbol. Christians drive as though Jesus himself was a traffic cop. And by all means, ignore the Lexus with the heavily made-up, bejeweled pig woman. She has the reflexes of an aging panda. Ah, here's the correct machine to get behind. A Camaro with 4 different shades of primer paint and a bumper sticker that says, "I date my sister." This guy's a real risk-taker, full of crank and on his way to an AC/DC concert. You'll be home before you know it. Now, one last reminder before I tow this trusty little shitbox of mine into the shop for its bi-monthly overhaul, and this should go without saying. That's why I'm going to say it. Drinking and driving don't mix. Do your drinking early in the morning and get it out of the way, then go out driving while the visibility is still good. Here's some fun. Stand on line at the bank for a really long time. Then when you finally get up to the window, just ask for change of a nickel. It's fun. They actually call other tellers over to look at you. Regarding Pokemon and Beanie Babies and Cabbage Patch dolls and such, something is really wrong when a major news story concerns how hard it is to buy a toy. I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty sick of these church people. You know what they ought to do with churches? Tax them. Tax them! If holy people are so interested in politics, government, and public policy, let them pay the price of admission like everybody else. The Catholic Church alone could wipe out the national debt if all you did was tax their real estate. Whenever I see a large crowd of people, I always wonder how many of them will eventually require autopsies. Laptop. How can this be? A lap has no top. It has only 2 dimensions, length and width. It's not like a desk. A desk has a bottom, a top, and sides. You place your desktop on the top of your desk. A lap has only 1 plane. When you stand up, your lap disappears, and your computer becomes a floor top. Everything beeps now. I think there ought to be a feminine hygiene spray called Sprunt. Think of how strange we'd look if all the cuts, burns, scrapes, bruises, scratches, bumps, gashes, and scabs we've ever had suddenly reappeared on our bodies at the same time. Regarding jam sessions, jazz musicians are the only workers I can think of who are willing to put in a full shift for pay and then go somewhere else and continue working for free. When someone asks you what time it is, glance at your watch and say, "Well, it's either 6:15 or Mickey has a hard-on." Guaranteed they'll ask someone else. Griddle cakes, pancakes, hot cakes, flapjacks. Why are there 4 names for grilled batter and only 1 word for love? I noticed that unlike on other holidays, the police don't seem to make a big deal about drunk driving on Good Friday. Why is that? You know what I never liked? The high five. I consider it lame white boy shit. When a guy raises his arm to give me a high five, you know what I do? Stab him in the arm. I'm tired of that shit. Sometimes I watch an old sports film on ESPN Classic and I see a whole game without a single high five. It's great. When you think about it, 12:15 p.m. is actually 11:75 a.m. At one time there existed a race of people whose knowledge consisted entirely of gossip. A crazy person doesn't really lose his mind. It just becomes something more entertaining. Instead of having truck scales on the highway, I think they ought to get one of those guys from the carnival and let him guess the weights. An art thief is a man who takes pictures. You know a phrase I never understood? King size. It's used to denote something larger, but most of the kings you see are short. You ever notice that? Usually a king is a short little fat guy. You never see a tall king. When's the last gangly king you can remember? Everywhere you look, there are families with too many vehicles. You see them on the highways in their RVs, but apparently the RVs aren't enough, because behind them they're towing motorboats, go-karts, dune buggies, dirt bikes, jet skis, snowmobiles, parasails, hang gliders, hot air balloons, and small two-man deep-sea diving bells. The only thing these people lack is lunar excursion modules. Doesn't anybody take a fucking walk anymore? The older a person gets, the less they care what they wear. Old people come up with some of the strangest clothing combinations you'll ever see. I think of it as cancer of the clothing. We're not supposed to mention fucking in mixed company, but that's exactly where it takes place. The other day I was thinking of how many peanuts elephants owe us. Personally, I'm down about 23 or 24 bags. If it's true that our species is alone in the universe, then I'd have to say the universe aimed rather low and settled for very little. I'm getting tired of all this security at the airport. There's too much of it. I'm tired of some fat chick with a double-digit IQ and a triple-digit income rooting around inside of my bag for no reason and never finding anything. They haven't found anything yet in anybody's bag. Haven't found one bomb in one bag. And don't tell me, well, the terrorists know their bags are going to be searched, so now they're leaving their bombs at home. There are no bombs. The whole thing is fucking pointless. And it's completely without logic. There's no logic at all. They'll take away a gun, but let you keep a knife. Well, what the fuck is that? In fact, there's a whole list of lethal objects they will allow you to take on board. Theoretically, you could take a knife, an ice pick, a hatchet, a straight razor, a pair of scissors, a chainsaw, 6 knitting needles, and a broken whiskey bottle, and the only thing they'd say to you is, that bag has to fit all the way under the seat in front of you. And if you didn't take a weapon on board, relax. After you've been flying for about an hour, they're going to bring you a knife and fork. They actually give you a fucking knife. It's only a table knife, but you could kill a pilot with a table knife. Might take you a couple of minutes, you know, especially if he's hefty. But you could get the job done if you really wanted to kill the prick. Shit, there's a lot of things you could use to kill a guy with. You could probably beat a guy to death with the Sunday New York Times. Or suppose you just had really big hands. Couldn't you strangle a flight attendant? Shit, you could probably strangle 2 of them, one with each hand. You know, if you were lucky enough to catch them in that little kitchen area, just before they break out the fucking peanuts. But you could get the job done, if you really cared enough. So why is it they allow a man with big, powerful hands to get on board an airplane? I'll tell you why. They know he's not a security risk because he's already answered the 3 big questions. Question number 1, did you pack your bags yourself? No, Carrot Top packed my bags. He and Martha Stewart and Florence Henderson came over to the house last night, fixed me a lovely lobster Newburg, gave me a full-body massage with sacred oils from India, performed a 4-way around the world, and then they packed my bags. Next question. Have your bags been in your possession the whole time? No. Usually the night before I travel, just as the moon is rising, I place my suitcases out on the street corner and leave them there unattended for several hours, just for good luck. Next question. Has any unknown person asked you to take anything on board? Well, what exactly is an unknown person? Surely everyone is known to someone. In fact, just this morning, Karim and Yusuf Ali Ben Gaba seemed to know each other quite well. They kept joking about which one of my suitcases was the heaviest. And that's another thing they don't like at the airport, jokes. Yeah, you can't joke about a bomb. Well, why is it just jokes? What about a riddle? How about a limerick? How about a bomb anecdote? No punchline, just a really cute story. Or, suppose you intended the remark not as a joke, but as an ironic musing. Are they prepared to make that distinction? Why, I think not. And besides, who's to say what's funny? Airport security is a stupid idea, it's a waste of money, and it's only there for one reason, to make white people feel safe. That's all, to provide the feeling, the illusion of safety, in order to placate the middle class. Because the authorities know they can't make airplanes safe. Too many people have access. You'll notice the drug smugglers don't seem to have a lot of trouble getting their little packages on board, do they? No, and God bless them too. And by the way, an airplane flight shouldn't be completely safe. You need a little danger in your life. Take a fucking chance once in a while, will ya? What are you gonna do, play with your prick for another 30 years? What are you gonna read People magazine and eat at Wendy's till the end of time? Take a fucking chance. Besides, even if they made all of the airplanes completely safe, the terrorists would simply start bombing other places that are crowded. Porn shops, crack houses, titty bars, and gangbangs. Entertainment venues. The odds of you being killed by a terrorist are practically zero. So I say relax and enjoy the show. You have to be realistic about terrorism. You gotta be a realist. Certain groups of people, Muslim fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, Jewish fundamentalists, and just plain guys from Montana, are gonna continue to make life in this country very interesting for a long, long time. That's the reality. Angry men in combat fatigues talking to God on a two-way radio and muttering incoherent slogans about freedom are eventually going to provide us with a great deal of entertainment. Especially after your stupid fucking economy collapses all around you and the terrorists come out of the woodwork, and you'll have anthrax in the water supply, there'll be sarin gas in the air conditioners, there'll be chemical and biological suitcase bombs in every city, and I say relax, enjoy the show, take a fucking chance, put a little fun into your life. To me, terrorism is exciting. I think the very idea that you can set off a bomb in Macy's and kill 800 people is exciting and stimulating, and I see it as a form of entertainment. I also know that most Americans are soft and frightened and unimaginative people who have no idea there's such a thing as dangerous fun, and they certainly don't recognize a good show when they see one. I have always been willing to put myself at great personal risk for the sake of entertainment, and have always been willing to put you at great personal risk for the same reason. As far as I'm concerned, all of this airport security, the questions, the cameras, the screenings, the searches, it's just one more way of reducing your liberty and reminding you that they can fuck with you anytime they want, as long as you're willing to put up with it, which means, of course, anytime they want. Because that's the way Americans are now. They're always willing to trade away a little of their freedom in exchange for the feeling, the illusion of security. What we have now is a completely neurotic population obsessed with security and safety, and crime and drugs and cleanliness and hygiene and germs. There's another thing, the fear of germs. Where did this sudden fear of germs come from in this country? Have you noticed this? The media constantly doing stories about all the latest infections. Salmonella, E. coli, hantavirus, bird flu, now they have West Nile fever. And Americans panic easily, so now everybody's running around scrubbing this and spraying that and overcooking their food and repeatedly washing their hands, trying to avoid all contact with germs. It's ridiculous, and it goes to ridiculous lengths. In prisons, and this is true, in prisons, before they give you a lethal injection, they swab your arm with alcohol. It's true. Well, they don't want you to get an infection. And you can see their point. Wouldn't want some guy to go to hell and be sick. It would take a lot of the sport out of the whole execution. Fear of germs. What a bunch of pussies. You can't even get a decent hamburger anymore. They cook the shit out of everything now because everybody's afraid of food poisoning. Hey, where's your sense of adventure? Take a fucking chance. You know how many people die from food poisoning in this country every year? 9,000, that's all. It's a minor risk. Take a fucking chance. Bunch of goddamn pussies. Besides, what do you think you have an immune system for? It's for killing germs. But it needs practice. It needs germs to practice on. So if you kill all the germs around you and live a completely sterile life, then when germs do come along, you're not gonna be prepared. And never mind ordinary germs. What are you gonna do when some super virus comes along that turns your vital organs into liquid shit? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to get sick, you're going to die, and you're going to deserve it because you're fucking weak and you got a fucking weak immune system. Now, I'm going to tell you a true story about immunization. When I was a little boy in New York City in the 1940s, we swam in the Hudson River, and it was filled with raw sewage. Okay? We swam in raw sewage. You know, to cool off. And at that time, the big fear was polio. Thousands of kids died from polio every year. But you know something? In my neighborhood, no one ever got polio. No one, ever. You know why? 'Cause we swam in raw sewage. It strengthened our immune systems. The polio never had a prayer. We were tempered in raw shit. So personally, I never take any special precautions against germs. I don't shy away from people who sneeze and cough. I don't wipe off the telephone. I don't cover the toilet seat. And if I drop food on the floor, I pick it up and eat it. I eat it, even if I'm at a sidewalk cafe. In Calcutta, the poor section, on New Year's morning during a soccer riot. And you know something? In spite of all of that so-called risky behavior, I never get infections, folks. I just don't get them. I don't get colds, I don't get flu, I don't get food poisoning, and I don't get headaches or upset stomachs. And you know why? Because I got a good, strong immune system, and it gets a lot of practice. My immune system is equipped with the biological equivalent of fully automatic military assault rifles with night vision and laser scopes. And we have recently acquired phosphorus grenades, cluster bombs, and anti-personnel fragmentation mines. So, when my white blood cells are on patrol, reconnoitering my bloodstream, seeking out strangers and other undesirables, if they see any suspicious-looking germs of any kind, they don't fuck around. They whip out the weapons, wax the motherfucker, and deposit the unlucky fellow directly into my colon. Directly into my colon. There's no nonsense. There's no Miranda warning. There's none of that 3 strikes and you're out shit. First offense, bam, into the colon you go. And speaking of my colon, I want you to know I don't automatically wash my hands every time I go to the bathroom. Can you deal with that? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. You know when I wash my hands? When I shit on them. That's the only time. And you know how often that happens? Tops. 2-3 times a week. Tops. Maybe a little more frequently over the holidays. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you something else, my well-scrubbed friends. You don't always need a shower every day. Did you know that? It's overkill. Unless you work out, or work outdoors, or for some reason come in intimate contact with huge amounts of filth and garbage every day, you don't always need a shower. All you really need to do is to wash the 4 key areas: armpits, asshole, crotch, and teeth. Got that? The hooker's bath. Armpits, asshole, crotch, and teeth. In fact, you can save yourself a whole lot of time if you simply use the same brush on all 4 areas. Do you ever wonder who empties the wishing wells? That's our money. I've never received an accounting. It's just gone. Someone apparently is emptying the wishing wells and keeping the money. And I'm wondering whether or not that cancels out the wishes. I mean, suppose it's a wish that takes time to come true. Like if you wish some friend of yours would develop cancer. That takes time. How can it come true if your nickel has already been rolled in a wrapper and deposited in a bank? And by the way, when does this coin retrieval take place? I'm sure they don't do it on Sunday afternoon, as some little girl is tossing in a penny wishing for her daddy to come back from heaven. No, they probably do it at 3 a.m, wearing black T-shirts and ski masks. I think this has gone far enough. I want to know what's going on. My friend is still perfectly healthy, and I'm concerned. You know, they use sex to sell things on TV commercials. Why can't they use violence and bad language, too? Not all families are as functional as the ones they show you on TV. Eat your fucking cornflakes, you cocksucker! Fuck you, Ma! Why, you little creep! Slam, smack, pow! Here, son, try this. It's new from Kellogg's.
Holy shit, Dad! Raisins!
Hey, asshole! What are you trying to do? Spoil the kid? Listen, cunt, I'm tired of your meddling. Blam, pow, crack!
Hey, Dad, when you get finished punching Mom, give me some more of that shit with the raisins in it, would ya?
Dogs have no priorities or schedules. You rarely see a dog with a wristwatch. Most things they do they will do anywhere at any time, except for the things you teach them not to do. Laszlo, don't ever do that again. If you do, I'll beat the shit out of you. They do catch on to suggestions like that. But basically, a dog doesn't care what he does. He'll simply do whatever's next. He doesn't really know what's next, but he'll think of something. He might even do two things in a row that don't go together. Do you ever see a dog trotting through a room, apparently headed somewhere, and suddenly he stops and chews his back for about 8 minutes, as if the whole thing were scheduled for that exact moment? And then finally, when he's finished chewing, he forgets where he was going in the first place and just sort of looks around, confused. Let's see, where was I going? Oh, shit, I forget. Seemed important at the time. Well, I guess I'll just lie down here under this chair. Hey, it's nice under here. I must do this more often. He doesn't know, and he doesn't care. Like I say, he'll do anything at any time. He might even embarrass you when you have company. You might have some folks over to the house, folks you don't know that well, people you're trying to impress. Hell, you might even be trying to borrow money from one of these assholes. And all these people are sitting around the living room, and you've put out some chips and a little dip, carrot sticks, maybe a little light buffet, and everybody's eating nicely and chatting politely, and the dog is lying there on the floor in full view. And suddenly you glance over and realize that the dog is licking his balls. Vigorously, big, long, loving licks in full view of everyone, and no one is saying a word. Remember, a spectacular thing is taking place. A naked living creature is administering a modified form of autofellatio in the presence of strangers. Not only is it a spectacular act, it's difficult to do. If I could do that, I'd never leave the house. And yet it goes unremarked. And if someone does say something, it's usually innocuous. Look, isn't he cute? He's taking a bath. No, Carla, that's not a bath. That's called licking your balls. If that's a bath, I'd have to say it's a mighty selective bath. He's been on that one spot for over an hour now. Then the dog trots over and starts to lick your face. No, Bruno. No, down, Bruno. Nice doggy. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't you know they have the cleanest mouth of any animal? Well, I'm not a chemist, Velma. I'm just basing my judgment on his most recent activity, which, as you'll recall, was licking his balls. Here are some things you can do just for fun. When writing a letter of reference for a friend, give him a glowing recommendation, but just for fun, conclude by saying, "Don't let Dave's legal history trouble you. There's reason to believe the little girl was lying." Just for fun, knock on the door of any stall in a public restroom and say, "Sir, please, try to control the smell in there. Don't force us to bring in the hoses." Call one of those How Am I Driving 800 numbers and just for fun, complain about a particular driver. Tell them he was driving on the sidewalk, vomiting, giving the finger to old women, and dangling a baby out the window. Next time you're at a baseball game, sing the national anthem in a loud voice, but just for fun, alternate each line between English and complete gibberish. Oh, say, can you see Floggy Bloom Skeldo Prunk? What so proudly we hailed Clogger Drunk Slern Clam Dong Blench. See if that doesn't get the fans talking among themselves. While strolling past a sidewalk cafe, just for fun, squeeze off several truly repulsive farts, silent or noisy. If silent, stand to one side and watch the results. If noisy, tip your hat and say, Bon appetito. Walk through a crowded amusement park carrying a small tape recorder that plays the sound of a little girl's voice screaming, Help, Mommy! The man is touching me like Daddy does at home! You know, just for fun. Camcorders are a good example of technology gone berserk. Everywhere you go now, you see some goofy fuck with a camcorder. Everyone's taping everything. Doesn't anybody stop and look at things anymore? Take them in? Maybe even remember them? Is that such a strange idea? Does experience really have to be documented, brought home, and saved on a shelf? And do people really watch this shit? Are people's lives so bankrupt they sit at home watching things they already did? And these guys are so intense. And by the way, it's always guys. They won't let women touch the cameras. It's a highly technical skill. Look through a hole, push on a button, big fucking skill. And they all think they're Federico Fellini. Did you ever see them at the soccer games with the low angles and the zooms and the pans? And it's the same three ugly children in every shot. Same kids. Believe me, all the George Lucas magic in Hollywood is not going to change the unfortunate genetic configurations on the faces of these children. Do the world a favor, keep these unfortunate youngsters indoors, out of public view. To my way of thinking, there are really only three sports: baseball, basketball, and football. Everything else is either a game or an activity. Hockey comes to mind. People think hockey is a sport. It's not. Hockey is three activities taking place at the same time: ice skating, fooling around with a puck, and beating the shit out of somebody. If these guys had more brains than teeth, they'd do these things one at a time. First you go ice skating, then you fool around with a puck, then you go to the bar and beat the shit out of somebody. The day would last longer, and these guys would have a whole lot more fun. Another reason hockey is not a sport is that it's not played with a ball. Anything not played with a ball can't be a sport. These are my rules. I make 'em up. Soccer's not a sport because you can't use your arms. Anything where you can't use your arms can't be a sport. Tap dancing isn't a sport. I rest my case. Running. People think running is a sport. Running isn't a sport because anybody can do it. Anything we can all do can't be a sport. I can run. You could run. For Christ's sakes, my mother can run. You don't see her on the cover of Sports Illustrated, do you? And swimming isn't a sport. Swimming is a way to keep from drowning. That's just common sense. Sailing isn't a sport. Sailing is a way to get somewhere. Riding the bus isn't a sport. Why the fuck should sailing be a sport? And boxing is not a sport either. Boxing is a way to beat the shit out of somebody. In that respect, boxing is actually a more sophisticated form of hockey. In spite of what the police tell you, beating the shit out of somebody is not a sport. When police brutality becomes an Olympic event, fine, then boxing can be a sport. Bowling isn't a sport because you have to rent the shoes. Don't forget, these are my rules. I make 'em up. Billiards. Some people think billiards is a sport, but it can't be because there's no chance for serious injury. Unless, of course, you welch on a bet in a tough neighborhood. Then, if you wind up with a pool cue sticking out of your ass, you know you just might be the victim of a sports-related injury. But that ain't billiards, that's pool, and that starts with a P, and that rhymes with D, and that brings me to darts. Darts could have been a sport because at least there's a chance to put someone's eye out. But alas, darts will never be a sport because the whole object of the game is to reach zero, which goes against all sports logic. Lacrosse is not a sport. Lacrosse is a faggoty college activity. I don't care how rough it is, any time you're running around a field waving a stick with a little net on the end of it, you're engaged in a faggoty college activity. Period. Same thing for field hockey and fencing. Faggoty college shit. Also, these activities aren't sports because you can't gamble on them. Anything you can't gamble on can't be a sport. When was the last time you made a fucking fencing bet? And gymnastics is not a sport because Romanians are good at it. Took me a long time to come up with that rule, but God damn it, I did it. Polo isn't a sport. Polo is golf on horseback, without the holes. It's a great concept, but it's not a sport. And as far as water polo is concerned, I hesitate to even mention it because it's extremely cruel to the horses. Which brings me to hunting. You think hunting is a sport? Ask the deer. The only good thing about hunting is the many fatal accidents on the weekends. And of course the permanently disfigured hunters who survive such accidents. Then you have tennis. Tennis is very trendy and very fruity, but it's not a sport. It's just a way to meet other trendy fruits. Technically, tennis is an advanced form of ping pong. In fact, tennis is ping pong played while standing on the table. Great concept, not a sport. In fact, all racket games are nothing more than derivatives of ping pong. Even volleyball is technically racketless team ping pong played with an inflated ball and a raised net while standing on the table. And finally we come to golf. For my full take on golf, I refer you elsewhere in this recording. But let it just be said, golf is a game that might possibly be fun if it could be played alone. But it's the vacuous, striving, superficial, male-bonding joiners one has to associate with that makes it such a repulsive pastime. And it is decidedly not a sport. Period. Here's a word you don't see anymore. Foodstuffs. I wish it would make a comeback. I like that. Foodstuffs. Let's give credit where credit is due and admit that Scotch tape was a really great idea. You live 80 years, and at best, you get about 6 minutes of pure magic. True fact. There are 11 teams in the Big Ten. You know, sometimes when you're burying a guy alive, for a moment or two you start feeling sorry for him, and then it passes and you keep on shoveling. I think everyone should treat one another in a Christian manner. I will not, however, be responsible for the consequences. I wonder if an Elvis impersonator could ever get famous enough so that someone who looked like him could become a celebrity look-alike. Do you think there's room in this culture for an Elvis impersonator look-alike? Probably. One objection to cloning human beings is that there's a chance for abnormal offspring. Yeah? So, you ever take a look at some of those families in the South? Why do they bother saying raw sewage? Do some people actually cook that stuff? You rarely run into a damsel anymore. Whenever I hear someone referred to as a spiritual leader, I wonder why the spirit world needs leaders. Here's more bullshit middlebrow philosophy. That which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I got something a little more realistic for you. That which doesn't kill me still may sever my spinal cord, crush my rib cage, cave in my skull, and leave me helpless and paralyzed, soaking in a puddle of my own waste. Put that on your t-shirt, touchy-feely New Age asshole. These days, many politicians are demanding change, just like the homeless people. Live and let live, that's what I always say. Anyone who can't understand that should be killed. It's a simple philosophy, but it's always worked well in our family. Hey, isn't it time we stopped wasting valuable land on cemeteries? Talk about an idea whose time has passed. Let's put all the dead people in boxes and keep them in one part of town. What kind of medieval bullshit is that? I say plow these motherfuckers up and throw them away, or melt them down. We need that phosphorus for farming. If we're going to recycle, let's get serious. Did you notice Joan Rivers has turned into one of those people she used to make fun of? Something I really don't like is that claymation, you know, that stop-action animation junk. Why don't they can that shit? It's fake-looking, and it detracts from the story. Every time you're exposed to advertising in America, you're reminded that this country's most profitable business is still the manufacture, packaging, distribution, and marketing of bullshit. High-quality, grade A, prime-cut, pure American bullshit. And the sad part is that most people seem to believe bullshit only comes from certain predictable sources. Advertising, politics, salesmen, lawyers. Not true. Bullshit is everywhere. Bullshit is rampant. Parents are full of shit, teachers are full of shit, clergymen are full of shit, and law enforcement is full of shit. This entire country is completely full of shit and always has been. From the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution to the Star-Spangled Banner, it's really nothing more than one big steaming pile of red, white, and blue all-American bullshit. Think of how it started. America was founded by slave owners who told us all men are created equal. All men except Indians, niggers, and women. Remember, the founders were a small group of unelected white male landholding slave owners who also, by the way, suggested their class be the only one allowed to vote. To my mind, that is what's known as being stunningly and embarrassingly full of shit. And everybody bought it. All Americans bought it. And those same Americans continue to show their ignorance with all this nonsense about wanting their politicians to be honest. What are these cretins thinking? Do they realize what they're wishing for? If honesty were suddenly introduced into American life, everything would collapse. It would destroy this country because our system is based on an intricate and delicately balanced system of lies. And I think that somehow, deep down, Americans understand this. That's why they elected and re-elected Bill Clinton. Because given a choice, Americans prefer their bullshit right out front where they can get a good, strong whiff of it. Clinton may have been full of shit, but at least he let you know it. And people like that. In '96, Dole tried to hide his bullshit, and he lost. He kept saying, "I'm a plain and honest man." People don't believe that. What did Clinton say? He said, "Hi, folks, I'm completely full of shit, and how do you like that?" And the people said, "You know what? At least he's honest. At least he's honest about being completely full of shit." It's the same in the business world. Everyone knows by now all businessmen are completely full of shit. Just the worst kind of low-life criminal cocksuckers you can expect to meet. And the proof is, they don't even trust each other. When a businessman sits down to negotiate with another businessman, the first thing he does is to assume the other guy is a complete lying prick who's trying to fuck him out of his money. So he does everything he can to fuck the other guy a little bit faster and a little bit harder. And he does it with a big smile on his face. That big bullshit businessman smile. And if you're a customer, that's when you get the really big smile. Customer always gets that really big smile as the businessman carefully positions himself directly behind the customer, unzips his pants, and proceeds to service the account. "I'm servicing this account." Now you know what they mean when they say, "We specialize in customer service." Whoever first said, "Let the buyer beware," was probably bleeding from the asshole. But that's business, and business is okay. But folks, I have to tell you, in the bullshit department, a businessman can't hold a candle to a clergyman. Because when it comes to bullshit, big-time, major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion. No contest. Religion easily has the greatest bullshit story ever told. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people, many of them adults, that there's an invisible man who lives in the sky and watches everything they do every minute of every day and has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to remain and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you. He loves you and he needs money. He always needs money. He's all-powerful, all-perfect, all-knowing, and all-wise. Somehow, he just can't handle money. Religion takes in billions of dollars, pays no taxes, and somehow they always need a little more. Now, you talk about a good bullshit story. Holy shit. You're all going to die. I hate to remind you, but it is on your schedule. It probably won't happen when you'd like. Generally, it's an inconvenience. For instance, you might have your stamp collection spread out on the dining room table.
Now?
Now.
May I at least put away my commemoratives?
No. Inconvenient. Nobody wants to die. Nobody. Well, maybe Evel Knievel. But most other people don't like the idea. Doesn't seem like an enjoyable thing. People figure if being sick is no fun, dying must really be a bother. After all, part of the pleasure of being alive is the knowledge that you're not dead yet. And when you get right down to it, people don't mind being dead. It's getting dead that bothers them. No one wants to get dead, but we're all going to do it. Death is one of the few things that is really, truly democratic. Everybody gets it once, but only once. That's what makes us nervous. No rehearsals. And actually, I think people should look forward to death. After all, it's our next big adventure. At last, we're going to find out where we go. Isn't that what we've all been wondering? Where we go? Where do we go? I don't know. We must go somewhere. True. Phil says he knows. I know he does, but take my word, Phil doesn't know. Where do we go? Maybe it's nowhere. That would be interesting. On the one hand, you'd be nowhere, but on the other hand, you wouldn't know it. So at least you'd have something to think about. Or not. Personally, I think we go wherever we think we're going to go. What you think is what you get. Have you ever heard one of those guys who says, "Don't even bother praying for me, I'm going straight to hell. I'm going to hell and be with all my friends"? Well, he is. He's going to hell, and he'll probably be with all his friends. What you think is what you get. If you keep saying you're going to heaven, chances are you'll get there. But don't look for any of your friends. In my own case, I expect I'll be going to a public toilet in Honduras. And by the way, should you be interested, I can tell you on good authority that when Monty Hall dies, he'll be spending a lot of time behind door number 3. I often wonder why there's no blue food. Every other color is well represented in the food kingdom. Corn is yellow, spinach is green, raspberries are red, carrots are orange, grapes are purple, and mushrooms are brown. So where's the blue food? And don't bother me with blueberries, they're purple. The same is true of blue corn and blue potatoes. They're purple. Blue cheese? Nice try. It's actually white cheese with blue mold. Occasionally, you might run across some blue Jell-O in a cafeteria. Don't eat it. It wasn't supposed to be blue. Something went wrong. When the United States is not invading some sovereign nation or setting it on fire from the air, which is more fun for our simple-minded pilots, we're usually busy declaring war on something here at home. Anything we don't like about ourselves, we declare war on it. We don't do anything about it. We just declare war. Declaring war is our only public metaphor for problem solving. We have a war on crime, a war on poverty, a war on hate, a war on litter, a war on cancer, a war on violence, and Ronald Reagan's ultimate joke, the war on drugs. More accurately, the war on the Constitution. But there's no war on homelessness. You notice that? It's because there's no money in it. If someone could end homelessness and in the process let the corporate swine steal a couple of $1 billion, you'd see the streets of America clear up pretty goddamn quickly. But if you think it's going to be solved through human decency, relax. It's not going to happen. You know what I think they ought to do about homelessness? Change the name. It's not homelessness, it's houselessness. It's houses these people need. Home is an abstract idea. It's a setting, a state of mind. These people need houses, physical, tangible structures. They need low-cost housing. But there's no place to put it. People don't want low-cost housing built anywhere near them. We have a thing in this country called NIMBY, not in my backyard. People don't want social assistance of any kind located anywhere near them. Just try to open a halfway house, a rehab center, a shelter for the homeless, or a home for retarded people who want to work their way into the community. Forget it. People won't allow it. Not in my backyard. People don't want anything near them, especially if there's a chance it might help somebody. It's part of that great, generous American spirit we hear so much about. You can ask the Indians about that, if you manage to find one. We've made Indians just a little hard to find. Should you need more current data, select any black family at random. Ask them how generous America has been to them. People don't want anything near them, even if it's something they think society needs, like prisons. Everybody says, build more prisons. But don't build them here. Well, why not? What's wrong with having a prison in your neighborhood? Seems to me it would make for a fairly crime-free area. You think a lot of crackheads and thieves and hookers are going to be hanging around in front of a fucking prison? Bullshit, they ain't going anywhere near it. What could be safer than a prison? All of the criminals are locked inside, and if a couple of them do manage to escape, what do you think they're going to do? Hang around? Check real estate prices? Bullshit, they're fucking gone. That's the whole idea of breaking out of prison, to get as far away as you possibly can. Not in my backyard. People don't want anything near them, except military bases. They like that, don't they? Give them an army or a navy base. That makes them happy. Why? Jobs. Self-interest. Even if the base is loaded with nuclear weapons, they don't give a shit. They'll say, well, I don't mind a few mutations in the family if I can get a decent job. Working people have been fucked over so long, that's the kind of decision they make now. But getting back to low-cost housing, I think I might have solved this problem. I know just the place to build housing for the homeless. Golf courses. It's perfect. Plenty of good land in nice neighborhoods, land that is currently being squandered on a mindless activity engaged in by white, well-to-do business criminals who use the game to get together so they can make deals to carve this country up a little finer among themselves. It's time for real people to reclaim the golf courses from the wealthy and turn them over to the homeless. Golf is an arrogant, elitist game that takes up entirely too much space in this country. The arrogant nature of golf is evident in the design and scale of the game. Think of how big a golf course is. It's huge. You can't see one end of it from the other. But the ball is only 1.5 inches in diameter. So will someone please explain to me what these pin-headed pricks need with all that land? America has over 17,000 golf courses. They average over 150 acres apiece. That's 3 million plus acres, 4,820 square miles. You could build 2 Rhode Islands and a Delaware's worth of housing for the homeless on the land currently wasted on this meaningless, mindless, arrogant, racist game. And that's another thing, race. The only blacks you'll find in country clubs are carrying trays. And don't give me that Tiger Woods bullshit. Fuck Tiger Woods. He ain't black. He acts, talks, and lives like a white boy. Skin alone doesn't make you black. And let's not forget how boring golf is. Have you ever watched it on television? It's like watching flies fuck. A completely mindless game. I should think it takes a fairly low intellect to draw pleasure from the following activity. Hitting a ball with a crooked stick. And then walking after it. And then hitting it again. I say pick it up, asshole. You're lucky you found the fucking thing in the first place. Put it in your pocket and go the fuck home. But no, Dorco in the plaid knickers is going to hit the ball again. And then he's going to walk some more. I say let these rich cocksuckers play miniature golf. Let 'em fuck with a windmill for 1.5 hours. I want to see if there's any real skill among these people. And yeah, I know there are plenty of golfers who don't consider themselves rich. People who play on badly maintained public courses. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em and shame on them. Shame for engaging in an arrogant, elitist, racist activity. Here's a great idea. I think Texas should save up 500 condemned people and execute them all at once in electric chairs. 500 electric chairs in a big gymnasium. Wouldn't that be fun? I realize Texas prefers lethal injection, but maybe they could make an exception just this once. Or how about executing people 5 at a time on electric couches? That would be interesting. Put a coffee table in front of them with magazines and some chips and dip. It'd be fun. Here's another good idea. If a married couple kills their kid, they should be executed in an electric love seat. Force them to hug as you pull the switch. I don't understand why prostitution is illegal. Selling is legal. Fucking is legal. So why isn't it legal to sell fucking? Why should it be illegal to sell something that's legal to give away? I can't follow the logic. Of all the things you can do to a person, giving them an orgasm is hardly the worst. In the Army, they give you a medal for killing people. In civilian life, you go to jail for giving them orgasms. Am I missing something? Hey, wouldn't it be great if you could make a guy's head explode just by looking at him? Guys don't seem to be called lefty anymore. The reason I talk to myself is that I'm the only one whose answers I accept. To my great disgust, the trend of naming children with what until recently had been considered surnames continues unabated. The latest abominations, Walker, Parker, Kendall, Flynn, and McKenna. God help us. I was thinking the other day that they ought to make those handicapped ramps a little steeper, and put a few curves in 'em, too. I could use some laughs. I think we ought to just go ahead and make zillion a real number. Gazillion, too. A zillion could be 10 million trillions, and a gazillion could be a trillion zillions. It seems to me it's time to do this. A long time ago in England, a guy named Thomas Culpeper was hanged, beheaded, quartered, and disemboweled. Why do I have the impression women were not involved in these activities? I read somewhere that in Mexico City, 300 tons of fecal matter are deposited in the air every day. So I guess you could say that not only does shit happen, it also falls on your head. In Maine, in order to save energy, there are several lighthouses that are closed at night. Sometime when you're watching a street musician, walk over in the middle of a song and whisper to him that you don't like his music. Then take $1 out of his cup and walk away. If a group of people stand around in a circle long enough, eventually they will begin to dance. Jesus doesn't really love you, but he does think you have a great personality. Have some fun. Walk into a gift shop and tell them you came in to get your gift. How can it be a spy satellite if they announce on television that it's a spy satellite? Why is it every time some celebrity gets cancer, the National Enquirer says he's vowed to lick this thing? Just once I'd like to hear a guy say, "I've got cancer, and this is it. I'll be dead in a few months." Why don't they have a light bulb that only shines on things worth looking at? Even though men are complete assholes, you know what makes me sad about feminism? Somewhere along the way we lost, "Hey, toots." Have you ever selected an item in the supermarket and put it in someone else's cart? Then you realize what you're doing and you get sort of an alien feeling. Wait, this is not my cart. Look at this, brown flour and sheep entrails. God, I almost put my capers in this cart. Where's mine? Oh, there it is, the one with the tapioca cupcakes and the mango popsicles. Thank God. Or have you ever started to walk off with someone else's cart? Hey, that's my stuff. You have to think fast. Not yet, it isn't. It's not paid for. Technically, these things still belong to all of us. And if I feel like shopping out of your cart, that's what I'll do. Let's see. Any organic scallions in there? What's this? Elk milk? That'll be just fine. You may leave now. I've found the best way to shop for food is to work up a really big appetite. Fast for several days, smoke a couple of joints, take $700, and go to the supermarket. It's great. You buy everything. Wow, canned bread, just what I need. And all the good things, the things you really love and can't do without, well, you got to buy 2 of them because you know you're going to eat one of them on the way home at a red light. Shopping hungry is great. You just keep loading things into your cart. But then, after several aisles, you realize you may have overdone it. You find yourself pushing a motorcade of 3 carts, all tied together with long loops of string cheese. Once again, you've lost control. And so, as you realize you don't have enough money to pay for everything, you begin to put back some of the more expensive items, like meat. $27, bullshit. I'll put back these steaks and grab a few more pound cakes. The kids shouldn't be eating meat anyway. The nicest thing about putting things back in the supermarket is that you can put them anywhere you want. No one cares. You can leave the Robitussin next to the ham hocks. You can stick the marshmallows in with the bacon bits. They don't care. They have people who come around at midnight to straighten that stuff out. And in the morning, everything is back where it belongs. By the way, next time you shop at a supermarket in a neighborhood that has higher than average marijuana use, take a look at the cookie section. Combat zone. Half the packages have been opened, and all the really good cookies are gone. Where the hell are the Malamars? Oh, we can't get Malamars into the store. Folks line up at the loading dock for Malamars. There are always plenty of crappy cookies. You ever notice that? Shitty, low-priced local cookies like Jim's home-style cookies. 26 varieties. I say, damn, Jim, if you can't make cookies in 25 tries, leave me out. Time to head home, folks. So let's get on the checkout line here and read People magazine. By the way, I must admit I'm a real sucker on the checkout line. I'm an impulse buyer. Anything that's on display, I want it. I even buy things other people leave behind. Wow! Extra spicy diet fudge raisin tartar sauce. Must be a sale. Great, I got the last one. One final thought. Have you ever been on the express line and tried to convince the tough-looking Hispanic girl with the tattoos that 27 packages of hot dogs are really just one item? I'm always grateful when she finally gives in. Go ahead, mister. It's quicker than beating the shit out of you. I don't know about you folks, but I think O.J. got screwed. Double jeopardy is just plain wrong. Civil trial, my ass. Not fair. O.J. beat the system and he should be allowed to enjoy it. Geraldo and Charles Grodin don't like O.J. Simpson. Geraldo and Charles Grodin deal in certitude, you know. Guys like that almost always impress me. But I'm really glad O.J. beat the rap. Personally, I'd like to see him on TV again doing commercials. Must be something he could do. Roach Motel. They checks in, but they don't checks out. It'd be fun. We need more fun. People get upset with all the wrong things. Like these guys Jeffrey Dahmer and Timothy McVeigh. Right away, everybody wants to kill them. Let me tell you something. You don't kill guys like that. That's exactly what they want. You know what you do? You let them off with a warning. Just like a speeding ticket. Sometimes all a guy like that needs is a good talking to. You sit him down and you say, listen, Jeff, nobody thinks you're funny, okay? No one is amused. So calm down and knock off the shit. Stop trying to draw attention to yourself. You eat one more person and you're in big trouble. A lot of these guys never hear that sort of thing. I think it would make them think twice before they cooked another person's head and ate it. Don't you? Now, as to Timothy McVeigh, you've got a slightly different situation here. After all, the guy's a veteran, so you have to show him a little consideration. And don't forget, it's his first offense. So I say let him off with a warning. Throw a good scare into him. Tim, one more trick like that and it's going to mean a hefty fine. A dog doesn't understand time. Like a young child, he doesn't know the difference between 8 o'clock and a week ago Tuesday. The only period of time a dog understands is forever. And that's how long he thinks everything's going to last. You ever scratch your dog behind the ears? They really love that, don't they? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Daddy's scratching me behind the ears. My favorite thing. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is great. And you're scratching, and he's loving it and looking up at you adoringly, his eyes rolling back in his head, and then suddenly you stop. And he looks at you like you're some kind of diseased criminal pervert. He's disappointed. He thought the scratching was going to last forever. He can't help it. He just doesn't know what time it is. It's especially bad when you go out and leave him alone. He thinks you're never coming back. Never. That must be what he thinks, or else why would he act the way he does when you finally get home? All hyper and excited and revved up, like you just ate 1.5 pounds of methamphetamine. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I thought you were never going to come home. I thought you were never going to come home. I thought you were never going to come home. I thought you were never going to come home. I was so scared. I was lonely, scared and lonely. I didn't know what to do. I was all alone. I thought I would never eat again. I don't know how to prepare food. I'm a dog. I can't cook. I can't do anything. I don't even know how to operate a can opener. How do you do that? What do? Push down the little handle? Couldn't figure it out. Give me some food. Give me a kiss. Shake hands. Here's my paw. You want me to roll over? I'll do it. Just don't leave me. Don't go. Don't go. I swear I'll never pee in the house again. I'll never pee anywhere again. Just don't leave me alone. And it doesn't matter how long you've been gone, they go into this speed freak mode even if all you did was forget your hat and come back a few seconds later. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I thought you were never going to come home. I thought you were never going to come home, etc., etc. Is that how you say that? Etc. Anyway, I got hungry. Again, the minute you left, I was going to eat the cat. Couldn't find him. Where the fuck's the cat? What did you do? Hide the cat? Lester, will you stop it? Calm down. I was just here a few seconds ago. They really miss you. And they have no idea what time it is. At some point in every stage show I do, I take a sip of water and I ask the audience, how's the water here? I haven't gotten a positive response yet. Not one. Last year, I was in about 100 different cities. Not one audience was able to give me a positive answer. Nobody trusts their water supply. Nobody. And that amuses me, because it means the system is beginning to collapse, beginning to break down. I enjoy chaos and disorder, not just because they help me professionally, but they're also my hobby. I'm an entropy buff. In high school, when I first heard of entropy, I was attracted to it immediately. They said that in nature, all systems are breaking down. And I thought, what a wonderful thing. Perhaps I can make some small contribution to this process myself. And of course, it's not just true of nature, it's true of society as well. If you look carefully, you can see that the social structure is just beginning to break down, just beginning to come apart at the seams. And what I like about that is that it makes the news on television more exciting. I watch the news for only one thing, entertainment. That's all I want. You know my favorite thing on television? Bad news. Accidents, disasters, catastrophes, explosions, fires. I want to see shit being destroyed and bodies flying around. I'm not interested in the budget. I don't care about tax negotiations. I don't want to know what country the Pope is in. But show me a burning hospital with people on crutches jumping off the roof and I'm a happy guy. I want to see a paint factory blowing up, an oil refinery explode, and a tornado hit a church on Sunday. I want to be told there's a guy running through the Kmart shooting at customers with an automatic weapon. I want to see thousands of people in the street killing policemen, hear about a nuclear meltdown in a big city, find out the stock market dropped 4,000 points in one day. I want to see people under pressure. Sirens, flames, smoke, bodies, graves being filled, parents weeping. My kind of TV. Exciting shit. I just want to see some entertainment. That's the kind of guy I am. You know what I like most? Big chunks of steel, concrete, and fiery wood falling out of the sky, and people running around trying to get out of the way. Exciting shit. And at least I admit it, folks, you know? Most people won't admit these feelings. Most people see something like that, they say, oh, isn't that awful? Bullshit, lying asshole. You love it and you know it. Explosions are fun, and the closer the explosion is to your house, the more fun it is. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes an announcer comes on television and says, 6,000 people were killed in an explosion today. And you say, where? Where? He says, in Pakistan. You say, fuck Pakistan. Too far away to be fun. But if he says it happened in your hometown, you say, whoa, hot shit, Dave. Come on, let's go down and look at the bodies. I love bad news. Doesn't bother me. The more bad news there is, the faster this system collapses. I'm glad the water sucks. You know what I do about it? I drink it. I fucking drink it. You see, I'm not one of those people who worries about everything. Do you have people around you like that? The country's full of them now. People walking around all day worried about everything. Worried about the air, the water, the soil, pesticides, food additives, carcinogens, radon, asbestos. Worried about saving endangered species. Let me tell you about endangered species. Saving endangered species is just one more arrogant human attempt to control nature. That's what got us in trouble in the first place. Interfering with nature. Meddling. Doesn't anybody understand that? And as far as endangered species are concerned, it's a phony issue. Over 90% of all the species that ever lived on this planet are gone. They're extinct. We didn't kill them. They just disappeared. That's what species do. They appear and they disappear. It's nature's way. Irrespective of our behavior, species vanish at the rate of 25 a day. Let them go gracefully. Stop interfering. Leave nature alone. Haven't we done enough damage? We're so self-important, so arrogant. Everybody's going to save something now. Save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save the snails. And the supreme arrogance, save the planet. Are these people kidding? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves. We haven't learned how to care for one another. We're going to save the fucking planet? I'm getting tired of that shit. I'm tired of fucking Earth Day. And I'm tired of these self-righteous environmentalist white bourgeois liberals who think the only thing wrong with this country is that there aren't enough bike paths, trying to make the world safe for their repulsive Volvos. Besides, environmentalists don't give a shit about the planet anyway. Not really. Not in the abstract. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. That's all. They're worried that sometime in the future they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interest doesn't impress me. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with the planet in the first place. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. Compared with the people, the planet is doing great. It's been here over 4 billion years. Did you ever think about that? The planet has been here 4.5 billion years. And we've been here for what, 100,000? And we've only been engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 versus 4.5 billion. And we have the nerve, the conceit to think that somehow we're a threat? That somehow we're going to put this beautiful little blue-green ball in jeopardy? Believe me, the planet has put up with much worse than us. It's been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, pole reversals, planetary floods, worldwide fires, tidal waves, wind and water erosion, cosmic rays, ice ages, and hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets, asteroids, and meteors. And people think a few plastic bags and aluminum cans are going to make a difference? The planet isn't going anywhere, folks. We are. We're going away. Pack your shit. We're going away. And we won't leave much of a trace. Thank God for that. Nothing left. Maybe a little styrofoam. The planet will be here and we'll be gone. Another failed mutation. Another closed-end biological mistake. The planet will shake us off like a bad case of fleas, and it will heal itself, because that's what the planet does. It's a self-correcting system. The air and water and earth will recover and be renewed, and if plastic is really not degradable, well, most likely the planet will incorporate it into a new paradigm. The Earth plus plastic. Earth doesn't share our prejudice against plastic. Plastic came out of the Earth. She probably sees it as one of her many children. In fact, it could be the reason the Earth allowed us to be spawned in the first place. It wanted plastic and didn't know how to make it. It needed us. That could be the answer to our age-old question. Why are we here? Plastic, assholes. And so our job is done. The plastic is here. We can now be phased out. And I think that's already begun, don't you? I mean, to be fair, the planet probably sees us as a mild threat, something to be dealt with. And I'm sure it can defend itself in the manner of a large organism, the way a beehive or an ant colony would muster a defense. I'm sure the planet will think of something. What would you be thinking if you were the planet, trying to defend yourself against this pesky, troublesome species? Let's see, what might I try? Viruses might be good. These humans seem vulnerable to viruses, and viruses are tricky, always mutating and developing new strains when new medicines or vaccines are introduced. And perhaps the first virus I try could be one that compromises their immune systems, a human immunodeficiency virus that makes them vulnerable to other infections that come along. And perhaps this virus could be spread sexually, making them reluctant to engage in the act of reproduction, further reducing their numbers. Well, I guess it's a poetic notion, but it's a start, and I can dream, can't I? No, folks, I don't worry about the little things, bees, trees, whales, snails. I don't worry about them. I think we're part of a much greater wisdom, greater than we will ever understand, a higher order. Call it what you like. I call it the big electron. The big electron. It doesn't punish, it doesn't reward, and it doesn't judge. It just is. And so are we, for a little while. See ya. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to be your content provider for the last few hours. Now you'll have to provide your own content for a while, until I see you again. Have fun doing so, and remember,